from the website www.gabriellemyers.com, which contains a gluten and dairy-free food blog that features seasonal recipes. And today I'm here to share with you one of my favorite sauces that are really easy to make. It's a beautiful sauce. It works well on a variety of dishes, from fish to eggs to beef to a veggie burger to even a salad. You can easily convert this into a salad dressing. What it is it's an aioli. The basis of aioli is olive oil and an egg yolk, and then you spike that and kind of give it a little bit of kick with some fresh lemon and garlic and a little salt. It's a simple sauce. It's so easy to make once you master the process. At first, some people are intimidated by that process, but you really shouldn't be. Like with anything in life, if you try it and you practice it and you fail a few times, eventually you'll become a master at it, especially a sauce such as aioli. What I like about it is it's creamy in texture. In many ways it tastes like a cream sauce, but it's not. It's completely dairy and gluten-free, so you can enjoy it if you have food allergies or if you have some health complications that prevent you from having milk products. So I'll walk you through the ingredients first, and then I'll show you the process. Now, I do have an earlier version of the aioli that I've posted that is by hand version, where you whisk it by hand. That's the traditional method. Most of the classic chefs will want you to employ, that method. But for most home cooks, they honestly don't really have the time for that, and you might not really appreciate the difference in quality between using the food processor and whisking it by hand. So this method is a lot quicker, and it probably will serve the needs of a wider audience. So I'll walk you through right now the ingredients that we have. We have, to start, 1 egg yolk. This is from an organic large egg. And again, I like to use organic products when I can if it's not too expensive, because I think it's better for me. I'm going to consume this, right? It's better for the people that are going to eat my food. It's better for the workers that are working on these farms, so that way they're not coming across chemicals and dangerous pesticides that might impact them later in life. And it's also better for our environment. So if I can afford it at the time, I always go for the organic version of products. Then you have 1 medium garlic clove, minced. You can use your garlic crusher and then give it a quick chop, or you can just smash it with a food mortar and follow that method. Then we have a teaspoon of Meyer lemon zest, straight from the tree outside. 2 tablespoons Meyer lemon juice. And then finally, a cup of olive oil. This is a nice, rich, grassy olive oil. It's extra virgin. I prefer to use extra virgin because I really love the taste of olive oil. And I like all the phytochemicals that I can possibly get in my olive oil. If I can find an unfiltered version of olive oil, I'll always go for that. If you have a sensitive palate and maybe you're not into, that intense extra virgin olive oil taste, you might consider a lighter olive oil. You might also consider cutting it with another oil, such as almond oil. I would stay away from canola oil because there have been a lot of recent reports out on the health impacts of canola oil. So why, have something that potentially could be bad for you? So those are basically your options with that. Just a few ingredients. It's pretty simple sauce, as I said. And next up, I'll show you how to blend it all together and make the sauce. Okay, so welcome back. The first step is to put the egg, the lemon juice, the garlic, and the zest into the blender and pulse it briefly. Let it sit for about 1.5 to 2 minutes so the ingredients start to meld together. And then you start to whisk in all the other ingredients. So that's what I'm going to do now. As you can see, the first thing is the egg yolk here. And I'm using a spatula to get it out of the little container. You could just break it straight in there, but I prepped my ingredients beforehand because I'm shooting a video, as I say. So get it all in there. Let that lemon juice bring all the egg down. And now we have the garlic. Get all the goodness in the food processor. Looks like I forgot a little zest. Want to have every little morsel of that in our container. And now I'm going to briefly pulse it so the ingredients come into contact with each other. Okay, so now they're all together. I'm gonna let it sit for about a minute or so. Basically what happens at this point in time is I believe that the lemon juice and the garlic start to emulsify with that egg. And that happens before we even add our olive oil. And that's an important step in the process, I think, to make sure that your aioli doesn't break as you start to add the olive oil at a fast pace. So it's gonna sit for a minute or two and then we'll be right. Okay, so welcome back. So it's been about 2 minutes and all of the ingredients except the olive oil have had a chance to commingle, and also the acid has a chance to penetrate the garlic and kind of break that down, but also the egg. Now basically what's going to happen is I'm going to add my olive oil drop by drop. Now the mistake that a lot of people make is they add the olive oil way too quickly and then the sauce breaks. And then once your sauce is broken, it's basically a no-go and you have to start over. So I'll show you how to add it really slowly. I'll show you the pace in which you need to add it. And hopefully that will communicate to you how to slow down a little bit in terms of your adding of the olive oil. So you want to start the machine and have it going as you add the oil. You basically always want to have the machine moving as you're slowly adding the olive oil drop by drop. Stop here. As you can see, I have not added a whole lot of olive oil. I was just literally doing it drop by drop. So that was not even, not even a quarter of a cup. And you really want to go at that pace, at least through, I would say, half of a cup of the oil is emulsified. Then you can kick up the speed a little bit as well. So I'm going to continue doing this drop by drop. It's a little boring to watch somebody make this, I think, so I'll stop the video now and then show you the sauce about midway through so you get a feel for that. Okay, so welcome back. This is what the sauce looks like after half a cup of olive oil. As you can see, hopefully, if the resolution on this camera is high enough, that the sauce has already started to emulsify. It's creamy, it's luscious. This is exactly the texture I want. There are no beads of oil hanging out in the sauce or really on the sides. I also, at this stage, have added half a teaspoon of sea salt. You can really add the sea salt at any point. I could have added it at the beginning. I prefer not to add it at the end, actually, because that way I think that it's a more surface level seasoning. So I would add it at the beginning or halfway through. That way the salt really penetrates into the sauce. So again, this is just halfway through. We still have this much olive oil that I need to incorporate into the sauce to go. But I wanted to stop and show you what the texture should look like at this stage in the game. Hold on one moment and I'll show you the finished sauce. Okay, so I'm almost at the end of adding my olive oil. I have just a little bit left. Towards the end, after you've incorporated at least half a cup, maybe 3/4 of a cup, you can speed the rate at which you add the olive oil into the mix because it already has a pretty good emulsion going. So I'll show you what that looks like. It's always good to stop it. Here you can take a look at the texture and the consistency. So it's nice, it's creamy, it's pretty firm. I find that aioli gets firmer if you use it in a food, or you make it in a food processor than by hand. It's more kind of frothy and fluffy when you whisk it by hand. It's more denser when you use a food processor, but it's still creamy and luscious. And so that's that. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna taste it and make sure that it tastes good. Okay, so welcome back. Now I'm going to taste the sauce to make sure that I have the right acidity level in terms of the lemon juice. but also the right salt level as well, and make sure it's tasting exactly the way I want it to. Oh my God, that's so good. It's amazing what you can do with just a few simple ingredients. Wow. And I don't think I need to add any acid this time or any salt. But you should keep in mind, each lemon that you purchase is slightly different in terms of its acidity and its sweetness. And really each olive oil is different too in terms of what it brings to the table. And your eggs are going to be different as well. So you really need to taste to confirm that the sauce is exactly the way you want it. And then once you have that set, you're good to go. In just a moment, I'll show you some of the variations that you can do with this basic sauce in terms of adding things to the base aioli to spice it up a little bit. So in terms of the ingredients that you can add to your aioli, really sky's the limit. It depends on your end goal in terms of flavor and taste, what you're going for, what you're going to apply the sauce to as well. Traditionally, you should know to be an aioli, by definition, this is basically it. You don't vary from the recipe. If you're a traditionalist, then you wouldn't mess with your aioli at all. But I live in California and I live in the United States, and we play with ingredients. Really, it's a fusion of, I think, different cuisines that we use here to make things taste good, and we use basically whatever we think would taste good. So possibilities, again, sky's the limit. You could go in your garden like I did. I just went in the backyard and picked some fresh parsley, and you can add that. How I would add the parsley and really any herb, I would chop it separately with a very sharp knife and then fold it into the sauce. I would not just blend it, because then I think you lose the texture of your herb, and also the sauce gets a little muddy, and I think it would not look as pretty as well. So I would definitely chop it up separately. So almost any herb will do. You could do chive, you could do, I think, some parsley. Mint might be exciting, especially if you're working, I think, with like a fish or even lamb might be really neat. I have cilantro here that I prepared for last night's dinner that I could chop up a little finer and stir into that, or fold into that base sauce. I also have some capers that I could chop up and put in. These you could probably just throw in the blender for just like a minute or two at the end of your sauce making process, and they would, I think, work out nicely in that sauce. You also have a little hot sauce. This is a new hot sauce that I've been quite excited about. It has habanero and a little sweetness from carrot and onions. And what else does it have? Something really interesting. Tangerine juice. So you could add just a spike of this to kick up the spiciness. You also have Calabrian hot peppers. I talked about this with the aioli recipe that you make from hand. It's a nice fermented chili pepper from Calabria, Italy. It's one of my favorite peppers and condiments in general, and you could chop it up and add 1 or 2 peppers at the end of the process here, or just add a little bit of the oil to your base aioli. You also can incorporate some chopped olives. Again, I would chop these separately pretty finely and then fold them into the sauce. I wouldn't just blend it, because again, you'll lose the texture of the olive, and the sauce itself will lose, I think, its special texture. And then another exciting ingredient for those, especially I think if you're working with seafood or a fish dish, to adjust the taste of your aioli with a little bit of saffron. Now this saffron, I kept it pretty straightforward. I added just a little bit of water. So this is probably like a teaspoon of water, and then 2 smallish pinches of saffron threads, and hopefully you can see the brilliant color that has emerged. So saffron is a spice that you do have to bloom out in a little liquid before you add it to the sauce, and I don't think that the moisture in the sauce is enough to really help that bloom out, so I've bloomed it out beforehand in a little water. And you can just add this to your recipe at the end, maybe the last like 30 seconds or so, just kind of blend it in. Those are just, again, some ideas. Sky's the limit. It depends on what you want this dish, the sauce to be paired with, and what you want your flavor goal to be in the end. The key is that with anything is to have fun, enjoy it, enjoy the process of learning how to make an aioli. Once you master the basic recipe, have fun experimenting with it. Have fun playing with the aioli by hand or making a mayo, which I'll feature on a future episode as well. Now, please remember to check out my website. I have tons of gluten and dairy-free recipes that follow the seasons. I try to be creative with that, and also create recipes that are simple and easy for people to follow. And if you're interested in checking out my website and the blog, it's at www.gabriellemeyers.com. That's GABRIELLEMYERS. And also, please like this video if you do like it. Share it with your friends. Subscribe, because I need all the followers I can get to keep this going and hopefully sell my cookbook. All right, thank you for your time and have a wonderful time cooking in the kitchen.